Welcome back to the TPS podcast. TPS stands for trillions per second, named after the book. Today, we'll take the TPS protocol for an overdrive. This is possibly the ultimate test for TPS so far. The author just took on a heavyweight. He stress-tested the TPS protocol in Sri Aurobindo's The Life Divine. This is going to be another banger of an episode, the most banger episode so far.
Yeah.
So enough talk, and let's dive right in.
It is fantastic to be back, and you're absolutely right to flag the energy shift here.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, usually when we open up these TPS files, we're putting on the clean suit, you know.
Totally. Stepping into the clean room, we're looking at bare metal code, searching for bugs.
Exactly. It's very systematic.
It's clinical. That's the word. We're talking debugging, malware removal, the blue screen of death, the kernel panic.
It's all about maintenance.
Yeah, it feels like we're the janitors of the psyche, you know, scrubbing the floors of the mind.
Which is vital work. Let's be clear. You can't run a complex system without that maintenance.
Of course not.
But today, the vibe is not maintenance. The vibe is overclocked.
Overclocked. I love that. That is the word of the day. For anyone listening who isn't, a PC gamer or a hardware geek, maybe break down the difference between standard maintenance and overclocking.
Sure. So maintenance is all about efficiency. It's about stability. You're just making sure your factory settings are running smoothly, no crashes.
Right, keeping the system healthy.
Overclocking is when you take a processor, a CPU, that's rated for a certain speed, and you deliberately push it way past its safety limit.
You're forcing it to go faster.
You're pumping more voltage into it, forcing it to run faster than the manufacturer ever intended.
Yeah.
You are squeezing every last drop of performance out of that piece of silicon.
But there's a pretty big risk there, isn't there?
Oh, a huge risk. Overclocking generates a massive amount of heat.
Ah.
And if you don't have the absolute best cooling system in place, fans, liquid cooling, whatever, you don't just get a crash, you physically fry the chip, it melts.
You burn out the hardware.
Exactly. And that is the perfect metaphor for today's deep dive. We are not just trying to stop the system from crashing. We are going to see how much raw voltage this TPS rig can actually handle before it literally catches fire.
Okay, so we're taking the TPS protocol, which, and we should remind everyone, is heavily based on the legacy code of Theravada Buddhism.
The system shutdown approach.
Right, the cooling system.
Yeah.
And we're throwing it into the ring with a challenger that is all about maximum high-energy output.
A challenger that wants to pump the voltage to infinity.
And what a challenger. We're talking about Sri Aurobindo. Now, for listeners who might just know him as, I don't know, a name on a yoga studio wall, or maybe they don't know him at all, we really need to set the scene here.
Yeah, absolutely.
This isn't just another meditation teacher telling you to, be calm and watch your breath, is he?
Not even in the same universe. Look, if the Buddha is the prime user who figured out how to hack the kernel to stop suffering, kind of the ultimate white hat hacker, right?
Oof. He found the exploit and ended the game.
Sri Aurobindo is the system architect of the 20th century. He wasn't interested in just debugging a single user's session.
But just clearing the browser history.
Exactly. He wanted to rewrite the source code of reality itself.
Okay, that's a massive claim, rewriting reality.
It's the ultimate claim. I mean, there's a reason he's considered the heavyweight champion of Indian philosophy. His big work, his magnum opus, The Life Divine.
Yeah.
It's not a self-help book you grab at the airport.
No. I've tried to read parts of it. It feels like reading a manual for an alien spaceship, but written in dense philosophical poetry. It's
a massive 1,000-page tome that maps out the entire structure of the universe, from the lowest, dumbest atom all the way up to the highest possible consciousness. It is, to put it mildly, a boss-level text.
A boss-level text. I like that. So in one corner of the ring, we've got this colossal, complex metaphysical system, the Aurobindo operating system.
Yeah.
And in the other corner, we have our stripped-down, clean, hacker-friendly TPS protocol.
A debugged kernel.
And the author of this whole project, C4 Chaos, decided to run a stress test.
Exactly. And let's be super clear about what a stress test means in this context. In engineering, you don't stress test a bridge by, driving a bicycle over it.
No, you line up a dozen fully loaded semi-trucks and drive them over it until you hear the concrete start to crack.
Precisely. You stress test a graphics card by running the most demanding 8K graphics you can find until that piece of silicon hits 95 degrees Celsius.
You push it to the breaking point.
You find the breaking point. C4 Chaos wanted to know, if I feed the massive, high-voltage, world-rewriting metaphysics of Aurobindo directly into the TPS protocol, will the protocol hold up?
Or will it just melt the motherboard?
Will the whole rig just fry? Because, and this is the core of the drama here, these two systems, TPS and Aurobindo, they do not look compatible on the surface.
No, not at all. They look like they might actually explode if you try to mix them.
They really do. At first glance, they seem to have completely opposite goals, and that's what makes this particular devlog, TPS devlog 011 TPSO and Aurobindo.pdf, so utterly fascinating.
It's not just a comparison.
It's a collision of operating systems.
Okay, so let's get into the source material.
Mm-hmm.
We have to understand the legacy code of the Challenger first. We need to decompile Aurobindo.
Good way to put it.
The log says that even though the Life Divine is this massive 1,000-page monster, you can actually strip it all down to just 3 lines of code.
Yeah, I love that reductionism. It's so TPS, it makes this impossibly vast system suddenly manageable.
Totally. So what's line 1?
Line 1 is involution.
Involution. Okay, so we all know evolution, Darwin, survival of the fittest, life getting smarter, fish crawling onto land. What in the world is involution?
Think of it as the descent, the prequel to evolution.
The prequel.
Right. In most of Western science, and frankly, in most people's everyday view of the world, the story of the universe starts with the Big Bang. You've got dead matter, rocks, gas, vacuum, total emptiness.
Right. Just stuff.
Just stuff. And then somehow, through some miracle of chemistry, billions of years later, consciousness just pops out of the rock.
Yeah, the ghost in the machine model.
Yeah.
Matter comes first, then mind shows up as like an accidental byproduct.
Aurobindo looks at that and says, no, that's completely backwards. You have it the wrong way around.
How so?
He argues you cannot get mind out of a rock unless mind was already hidden inside the rock to begin with.
Ah, I see. It's like conservation of energy. You can't get something from nothing. It has to be there from the start.
Exactly. Nothing comes from nothing. So involution is the process where the divine consciousness, I call it spirit, the source, the supermind, whatever word you want, it didn't just create the world from the outside like a potter making a pot.
It wasn't separate.
It became the world. It folded itself up.
It folded itself up. The TPS log uses a metaphor here that just is perfect. The zip file.
It's a perfect analogy for our time, isn't it? Imagine you've got this massive uncompressed file. Let's say it's a raw 8K video of the entire history of the universe.
Okay, so it's terabytes and terabytes of data. Bright, loud, complex, infinite detail.
Right. Now you compress it, you zip it down.
It gets smaller. It looks simpler on the outside.
It gets incredibly dense. It looks like one tiny little icon on your desktop. It takes up less space. It seems inert. But, and this is the absolute key, everything is still inside it.
All the data is still there, just packed down.
It's packed down layer by layer until it becomes solid.
So matter, this table, my hand, a stone on the ground, this microphone, this isn't dead stuff at all. This is just spirit compressed.
To use the TPS terms, it's high-density voxels. The source code compiled itself into binary. It deliberately limited itself. It forgot itself on purpose in order to become solid structure.
So a rock is simply God in a zip file.
That's the line from the log. A rock is God in a zip file.
That is a wild way to look at a rock. It's not dead. It's just sleeping. It's buffered.
It's highly compressed. It's dormant data. So that's line 1, the descent, the involution. The divine becomes the rock. Which brings us to line 2.
Line 2, evolution, the ascent.
This is the part we're much more familiar with. This is the unzip process.
The great unpacking.
Right. Because the code is hidden inside the rock, that rock has an inherent programmed drive to wake up. The zip file wants to unzip itself. It is under this immense pressure to expand back to its original state.
So matter evolves into life, plants, animals.
And life evolves into mind, humans.
And here we are. We've got minds. We've made it. We're at the peak. We've got iPhones and podcasts, and we're sending probes to Mars.
Well, see, that's where most people, and most of science, stops the story. They think the human mind, our logic, our reason, our intellect, that this is the pinnacle of evolution. We're the top of the food chain. We won.
And Aurobindo says, not so fast.
Not even close.
What does he say about the mind?
He says the mind is just buggy middleware.
Ouch. Buggy middleware. Okay, that hits the ego a little bit.
Yeah.
We prize our intellect so much, we think our thoughts are the ultimate reality. Why is it buggy? What's the bug?
It's buggy because of how it processes data. Let's look at it from a pure systems perspective. The mind is a tool that has to cut reality into tiny pieces in order to understand it. It's an analytic engine.
Right.
We look at a tree, and to understand tree, we say leaf, trunk, root. We chop it up. We look at the flow of time, and we say past, present, future. We chop the seamless, continuous flux of reality into these little static blocks so that we can manage them.
We buffer it. We're not watching the live video stream, we're looking at a series of screenshots.
That's a perfect way to put it. We create lag. And as we know from all our previous deep dives, what is the TPS definition of lag?
VUCA, suffering.
Exactly. The mind, by its very structure, creates suffering because it is incapable of seeing the whole picture at once. It's a fragmented processor. It's incredibly efficient for basic survival. It helps you not get eaten by a tiger because you can distinguish tiger from bush.
Sure, very useful for that.
But it's terrible for perceiving truth. It's an intermediate stage. It's not the final OS. It's like MS-DOS. It got us here, but you really don't want to run your entire life on it forever.
Okay, so if the mind is just buggy middleware, what's the upgrade? What comes next in the evolutionary chain?
And this is line 3, the supermind.
The supermind. It sounds a little bit like a comic book character, but I'm guessing it's more technical than that.
Oh, much more technical. Aurobindo calls it the truth consciousness. If the mind is like a dial-up modem that has to download reality packet by painful packet.
BEATSHHHH.
Right. The supermind is the fiber optic connection. It's the native OS of the divine.
Native OS, so it doesn't need to translate anything.
Zero translation, zero buffering, zero lag. It has infinite bandwidth. It sees the whole source code at once.
So it doesn't look at the tree and see parts.
It sees the seed, the sapling, the full-grown tree, the forest, the sunlight, the rain, and the soil, all as one single, indivisible movement. It understands the why and the how of everything simultaneously.
So the goal of evolution, according to Aurobindo, isn't just to become a smarter human with a better mind. It's not about adding more RAM to the middleware.
No. The goal is to perform a full system upgrade, to install the supermind into the biological hardware.
Into the body. You mean like literally into our cells?
Into the body, down to the cellular level. And this is the crucial distinction that separates Aurobindo from almost every other spiritual tradition.
How so?
Most traditional spirituality, especially the legacy code of, say, Theravada or Advaita Vedanta, often talks about escaping the world. You know the drill? Realize the self, leave the body behind, attain nirvana, system shut down.
Right. Game over, you win.
You exit the matrix. That's the classic trope. This world is an illusion, it's a trap, let me get out of here.
Yeah, leave the messy hardware behind.
Aurobindo says, no, we don't want to leave the matrix. We want to recode it from the inside out. He wants to bring that high-voltage supermind consciousness down into the cells, into the very flesh. He wants to turn the animal human into what he calls a Gnostic being.
A Gnostic being. So a biological unit running on divine software.
Precisely. A living transformer. A vessel that is capable of holding the infinite within the finite. A piece of hardware that can run the software of God.
Okay, I get the ambition. It's absolutely huge. It's exciting. It has that LFG energy we'll get to later. It's heroic. But this is where the stress test gets real.
This is where the sparks start to fly.
The author, C4 Chaos, is running this simulation. He's feeding all of Aurobindo's data into the TPS protocol, and then something happens. The warning lights start flashing.
Yeah, the AI co-pilot speaks up. And this is such a great narrative device in the log because the AI represents pure cold logic. It represents the safety protocols of the system.
I love this part of the log. It feels like a scene from a sci-fi movie where the ship's computer suddenly says, "Warning. Hull integrity failure imminent."
It's exactly that. The AI literally pauses the simulation and flags a compatibility error.
It throws an exception.
It does. It basically says, stop, hold on. These two systems do not match. What you are attempting to do is install a nuclear reactor into a kitchen toaster.
Let's really dig into this error message. Why did the AI think they weren't compatible? What was the fundamental conflict?
It all goes back to the kernel architecture. The TPS protocol up to version 3.0 has been built, as you said, on the Theravada kernel.
Which we've established in earlier deep dives is the system shutdown model.
Right. Its primary directive is debugging. It identifies the self as malware, that resource hog program that's always running in the background.
Draining all the battery, causing all the crashes.
And it runs scripts to delete that malware. Its ultimate goal is nirvana cessation, cooling down, stopping the wheel of becoming.
So it's designed for cooling. It's a massive refrigeration unit for the psyche. Its core commands are chill out, let go, stop clinging.
Exactly. It's a cooling system.
Yeah.
Now contrast that with Aurobindo's model. It's built on system overclocking. It wants to run high-voltage divine energy, what he calls the Shakti, or the supramental force, directly through the user's nervous system.
Okay, so we have a cooling system on one side and a massive nuclear power plant on the other.
And the AI, being a purely logical entity, just looked at the physics of the situation and said, danger, this is a bad idea.
It's the copper wire problem.
It is exactly the copper wire problem. The log puts it perfectly. If you run infinite voltage through a standard copper wire, the wire melts. That is the core metaphor of this entire deep dive.
And the human nervous system, in its current state, is just a copper wire.
It's a copper wire. It's designed to handle, 110 volts. It's designed to handle, I'm hungry, I'm tired, I need to pay my rent. Did I remember to lock the door?
Low voltage stuff, basic survival tasks, domestic current.
Exactly. If you suddenly try to pump the voltage of the Big Bang through that little wire, which is effectively what the supermind is, you don't get enlightenment, you get a blown fuse.
You get madness.
You get madness, you get a complete physical breakdown, you get what people in some circles call Kundalini psychosis.
The motherboard melts. The user fries.
The user fries. And the AI was genuinely concerned about this. It argued that the current TPS reg just wasn't built for this kind of energy load. It looked at the specs and said, we need a patch. Urgently.
It even suggested writing a new driver, right?
Yeah.
Something like the nosticernal.pkg.
Supermental descent. The AI basically said, hey, we need to throw out the old OS and write a completely new one because the current architecture is way too fragile for this kind of energy. We have to discard the Theravada kernel because it's too passive. It's not built for power.
And that makes a lot of sense. If I'm upgrading my gaming PC to run a hyper-realistic simulation of the entire universe, I'm probably going to need to upgrade the power supply and install some serious cooling fans, or the whole thing is just going to catch fire.
It's a very logical objection, a very sensible warning, but this is where the twist happens. And it's my favorite part of the entire log because it completely flips the script on what we think these spiritual traditions are actually doing.
The author's response: C for chaos. He doesn't panic. He doesn't agree to write a patch. He laughs.
He laughs at the AI's very serious, very logical warning, which, by the way, is a very Zen master kind of move to make.
It is. The AI is freaking out about voltage limits and hardware failure, and the human is just chuckling.
And he gives the AI a simple command. Check the documentation again. Specifically, TPS devlog 004, the Silicon Sutra.
And then he asks the AI one very specific, very simple question.
What is the quad core?
The quad core. Okay, we've touched on this in the lexicon episode, but we really need to reindex these files for this context. The AI pulls up the specs for the 4 immeasurables.
The Brahma Viharas from the Pali Canon. Now, usually when people hear about the 4 immeasurables in a Buddhist context, their eyes kind of glaze over. They think of moral virtues, being a nice person.
Yeah. Be kind, be compassionate, be happy for other people, be calm. It sounds a bit like Sunday school. It sounds like soft skills. It sounds like something you'd see on a cheesy inspirational poster.
It sounds like wetware fluff. Sentimental stuff. But in the TPS protocol, C4 chaos is insistent. These are not just emotions. They are system specs. They are fundamental architectural requirements for hardware stability.
Okay, so let's list them out the way the computer sees them. The specs of the quad core.
Right. Core 1, metta, usually translated as love or loving kindness.
Karuna, compassion.
Mudita, sympathetic joy, or being happy for the success of others. And core 4, upekkha, equanimity.
So the AI reanalyzes the problem, but this time it includes these 4 components in its calculation, and suddenly the big red compatibility error warning, it just disappears.
And the diagnostic light turns from red to green.
System stable, ready to proceed. How? I mean, this is the million-dollar question. How did a list of nice feelings fix a high-voltage electrical engineering hardware problem? How does being nice stop you from literally melting when you touch the face of God?
This is where we have to shift our perspective and get into what the log calls the physics of the divine. We have to stop looking at the Silicon Sutra as a moral guide and start looking at it as a thermodynamic regulation system.
Thermodynamics.
Yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this, because this feels like the bridge. This is the engineering fix that connects the cooling system to the nuclear power plant.
Let's start with component 4, equanimity, upekkha. In the TPS model, equanimity functions as the heat sink.
The heatsink, I love this visual. And in computer, the heatsink is that big metal block, usually with fins, that sits right on top of the CPU. Its only job is to absorb and dissipate heat so the chip doesn't fry itself.
Exactly. Now, to understand why this works, we need to go back to basic physics. Where does heat come from in an electrical system?
It comes from resistance.
Resistance, Ohm's law. It's friction. When electrons try to flow through a wire, the atoms of the wire get in the way. The electrons bounce around, they create friction, and that energy is lost as heat. If the wire is narrow or dirty or just a poor conductor, you get a lot of resistance and a lot of heat.
Okay, so now map that onto the human nervous system. What is resistance in the human mind?
Resistance is craving and aversion.
Yeah.
It's the self-program constantly saying, no, I don't want this moment to be like this. I want that thing over there. I don't like this sensation. I wish I was somewhere else, with someone else.
It's the push and pull against reality.
It's friction. That constant internal battle is generating immense psychological heat. We call it stress, anxiety, anger.
So when I'm anxious or angry or just resisting what's happening, I am literally heating up my own circuits.
You are creating resistance in the wire. You are vibrating with refusal. Now imagine trying to run a very high voltage, that supermental energy, through a wire that already has extremely high resistance.
It's a bonfire,
Yeah.
an explosion, total burnout.
Fire.
What?
What happens if the resistance drops to zero?
Well, if resistance is zero, then the current can flow through without generating any heat at all.
Precisely. And that is what equanimity is. It is the state of zero resistance. You accept the flow of data, whether that data is labeled pain, pleasure, high voltage, low voltage, without pushing it away or pulling it closer. You let it pass through you. You become completely transparent to the flow.
So if you can cultivate perfect equanimity, you have a perfect heat sink.
You have something even better. You have a superconductor.
Whoa.
A superconductor is a material that conducts electricity with literally zero resistance. It can handle massive currents, theoretically infinite currents, without losing a single drop of energy to heat. It is a state of perfect efficiency.
So the solution to the melting wire problem isn't to turn down the voltage.
No.
It's to drop the resistance of the wire itself.
Exactly. And that is why the TPS protocol, with its deep focus on deleting the self and establishing equanimity via the Theravada kernel, is not the enemy of Aurobindo's high voltage.
Right.
It is the perfect prerequisite for it.
You need the Theravada kernel to clean the wire.
So that the Aurobindo current can safely flow through it.
That just clicks. That really connects the dots for me.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
not about being holy or pious in some moral sense. It's about structural integrity.
It is pure engineering. Simple as that. You are building a biological vessel that is capable of holding the charge without breaking.
But equanimity was just one part of the quad core. There's another component the diagnostic pointed to, love, meta, core 1.
Right.
And in the log, it calls love the open port. What does that mean?
This connects directly back to the nature of the supermind. Remember we said the supermind is a network consciousness.
Yeah, it sees everything as one. It connects all the dots.
It is the internet of being. Now, if you are running a self-program, that malware of ego, you have a very aggressive firewall running. It's constantly saying, this is me, that is you, keep out, private property, do not enter.
A firewall blocks connections. It drops packets. It isolates the individual machine from the network.
It throttles your bandwidth. If you try to download the entire internet through a firewall that's blocking 99.9% of all available ports, you're either going to crash the system or you're just going to get a connection timed out error. You can't access the network.
So meta is the command to open all the ports.
Meta universal love is the system administrator command. Sudo open all ports. It removes the firewall of the ego. It's a state of radical inclusion. It says, I am willing to exchange data with every other node in this network without exception. It dissolves the artificial boundary between me and not me.
So it allows for full unthrottled connectivity.
Full connectivity. It allows the supermind's infinite bandwidth to actually enter your local system because your system is no longer actively blocking it out.
Okay, so we have equanimity handling the heat, the resistance, and we have love handling the bandwidth, the connection.
And then, just to prove it's not just a nice metaphor, the log provides the mathematical proof. It actually breaks this whole thing down using Ohm's law applied to God.
I honestly never thought I'd hear the phrase Ohm's law applied to God, but here we are. Okay, let's run the numbers.
The formula is simple high school physics. Current experience resistance.
Okay, I is VR.
Got it. So, in our spiritual engineering metaphor, voltage V is the divine force, the supermental power. For the sake of this calculation, let's say it's effectively infinite. Resistance R is the ego, the self, the sum total of your craving and aversion.
Okay, makes sense.
So if your resistance is high, let's say you have a big ego, lots of attachments, lots of I want and I don't want, and you divide that infinite voltage by a big number. Well, in a real physical system, high resistance with high voltage just means you burn up. But let's think about the flow. If you want the maximum possible current, to flow through you.
You need the resistance to be as low as possible. You need to make the denominator in that equation get as small as it can go.
And what happens if your resistance hits 0?
Well, in calculus, as a number approaches 0 in the denominator, the result approaches infinity.
Exactly. If resistance is 0, which is the state of perfect equanimity, then the current that can flow through you can be infinite. You become a perfect vessel for the infinite.
That is the aha moment.
Yeah.
That's the core insight of the whole log right there.
That's why the AI's diagnostic light turned green. The AI suddenly reran the numbers and realized, wait a minute, we don't need a new driver. We don't need to write a patch. We just need to maximize the efficiency of the existing quad core.
We don't need to build a new machine. We need to become superconductors.
We need to become superconductors. And this is what resolves the apparent conflict between the passive path of the meditator and the active path of the world transformer.
How so? Explain that.
Because a superconductor isn't doing nothing. It looks passive. It's not generating heat or noise, but it is conducting a massive, almost unbelievable amount of energy.
So it's the most active state possible, but it feels like the most peaceful state possible.
Precisely. It's the peace that passeth all understanding, holding the power that moves the stars. It is absolute silence and infinite dynamism happening in the exact same moment.
So let's bring this back to the final verdict from the AI. The systems are declared compatible.
Compatible and ready for full integration.
And it defines the relationship between them so perfectly. It says, TPS Protocol is the operating system. It's the stable foundation. It provides the debugging, the malware removal, the heat sink.
And Aurobindo is the power user. He's the high-demand application running on top of that stable OS. He provides the high-voltage goal.
You can't run the Aurobindo app on a Windows 95 machine that's riddled with viruses and malware.
It'll crash instantly, or just set the computer on fire.
You need a clean, optimized, zero-lag OS first.
And that is why hardcore Dharma, the rigorous, sometimes tedious work of cleaning the self, of noting practice, of dissolving the ego bit by bit, is the necessary and unavoidable preparation for becoming a Gnostic being.
Let's try to paint a picture of this Gnostic being in TPS terms. What does this upgraded human actually look like walking down the street? Because I think we have this mental image of a guru levitating in a cave or floating on a cloud. But TPS always implies this is practical, this is embodied.
It is absolutely practical. It's a biological unit. It looks like you or me. It's wearing jeans and a t-shirt. It might be writing code or cooking dinner for their family or driving a car in traffic. But internally, the system architecture is on a completely different level.
Walk us through the specs of this being.
Okay, first, ports are open. They are feeling everything. There's no firewall. They are connected to the mood of the room, the state of the trees outside, the rhythm of the traffic, the inner state of the people they're talking to. Meta is running as a background process constantly. They aren't isolated inside their own skull.
So they're hyper-aware, hyper-connected.
Second, resistance is 0. There's a traffic jam. No stress, just data. Someone insults them. No defense. The data just passes through. They feel physical pain. It's just sensation. Without the story of poor me attached. The heat sink of equanimity is absorbing every single shockwave without the system heating up. They are frictionless.
You can't offend them because there's no self to be offended.
There's nothing to stick to. And third, the bandwidth is infinite. Because there's no lag from the buggy middleware of the mind, they are responding to reality in pure real time. They aren't thinking about what happened yesterday or worrying about what might happen tomorrow. They are processing the now with the full power of the supermind. They are, in a very real sense, the hands and feet and voice of the divine in that specific moment.
That sounds superhuman, but also weirdly like the only sane way to actually be human.
It is. The log presents it as the next logical stage of evolution. It's the rock that has finally fully woken up. It's the zip file that has been completely unzipped.
Fully unzipped. And the author, C4 Chaos, he signs off this incredible devlog with a very specific, very telling energy.
Yeah, he quotes the final system status. We are ready for the descent, LFG.
LFG. Let's fing go.
It's rare to see LFG in a spiritual text.
It is. Usually you get Namaste or Om Shanti or Peace Be With You. But LFG somehow captures the Aurobindo spirit perfectly.
It does. This isn't about retreating from the world into a quiet cave. It's about total engagement. It's about diving in and tackling the biggest challenge imaginable. It's the raw enthusiasm of the hacker who just confirmed that his rig can handle the ultimate game.
It's aggressive optimism.
It's the overclocked mood coming full circle. It's not passive acceptance of what is. It's active, joyful participation in the evolution of the entire universe.
So let's wrap this up. Let's look at the big picture of what we've unpacked here. We started with what looked like an irreconcilable conflict: shutdown versus overclock, cooling versus heating.
And we found the synthesis. We found that you absolutely need the cooling system in order to enable the overclock. They're not opponents. They're two stages of the same process.
We looked at the legacy code of Aurobindo, the zip file of God, the buggy middleware of the human mind, and the ultimate evolutionary goal of the supermind.
And then we saw how the Silicon Sutra, those 4 ancient virtues that sound so soft and gentle, are actually hard-as-nails technical specifications for a thermodynamic regulation system.
Equanimity is the heat sink. Love is the open port.
And when you install them both and run them at 100% capacity, you get the superconductor.
It really, truly reframes the whole idea of the spiritual path for me. It's not about being a good person so you get a cookie in heaven.
Yeah.
It's about building a machine with structural integrity.
It is pure spiritual engineering. If you want to run high voltage, you have to build a system that can take the load. And if you don't do the foundational work, if you don't clean the malware of the ego, if you don't painstakingly build the heat sink of equanimity, and you try to chase those high voltage states,
You fry.
you fry. You see it happen all the time in the broader spiritual scene. People chasing peak experiences, through psychedelics or Kundalini awakenings or intense breath work. But they haven't done the basic debugging first.
I haven't installed equanimity.
So they have these massive energy surges, but their wire has too much resistance and they burn out. They get unstable. They get manic. They become grandiose.
They become a melted copper wire.
Exactly. The TPS protocol is the safety manual. It's the engineering blueprint. It says, we want you to fly to the sun, but first, let's make damn sure the wings are bolted on tight and the heat shields are in place.
And that really is the ultimate takeaway here. Hardcore Dharma isn't the final goal. It's the prerequisite for hardcore evolution.
You cannot have the power without the cooling system, period.
So here is the final thought for you, the listener, to mull over as you unplug from this deep dive.
We've talked a lot today about resistance and voltage. I want you to run a quick diagnostic on your own internal system right now.
Scan the system. Check the specs.
If the voltage of your life, of reality itself, was suddenly turned up to maximum, if you were suddenly given infinite energy, infinite perception, infinite connection, what would happen to your wire?
Would you flow with it, or would you melt?
Are you a copper wire full of resistance, full of friction? Or are you ready to do the work to become a superconductor?
That's the question. The upgrade is waiting, but you have to clear the bugs first.
The documentation is all there. The protocol is open source.
See you in the flux.
End of line.